Forrest Cummings, and this evening I'll be tying a copper john. And I chose this pattern because it's a very popular fly, and from what I understand, Umpqua sells more versions of the copper john than any other fly. And I went and looked in my fly box, and I have more versions of the copper john than any other fly. And it's a great fly. It isn't tied to mimic any one particular aquatic insect, but it mimics a lot of stonefly and mayfly imitations. And it's a great fly because it's weighted so heavily and it gets down deep. And a lot of people think that's really the secret to the fly. It can be tied in a variety of colors. We're going to be using either black, brown, or a rusty color brown, Goose Biot for the tail, and then ultra wire, which does not tarnish, for the abdomen, and then Peacock Hurl, or you can use synthetic peacock or dub peacock if you want for the body. And then for the wing case, we're going to use thin skin and a little piece of, it's probably hard to see, holographic flash tinsel. And over that, we won't be doing that tonight, but you would mix up some 5 or 30-minute epoxy and just put that over the wing case. We'll talk about that later. And then it's also tied with legs that can either be Partridge or Henback or Pheasant tail or other things. I think you could use several different things for the legs. And I'm tying it with a bead. And also I'm using some wire. Here we go. Lead-free wire. This is 0.15. That's what makes it also heavy. It just sinks. So. I'm going to be using a 2x long Nymph hook. You can use a straight hook or a curved hook. And I'm putting on a gold bead. This fly is typically tied with a gold bead, but I have lots of copper beads and black beads, and I think the fly, depending on the color of wire you use, it really looks good with different colored beads as well. So we put the bead on there. I'm not going to tie on my thread yet because I'm going to put on some lead, some lead-free wire. And I'm going to put on 13 wraps of this. Just break that off there. And then I'm going to make sure I have that little tag in. And I'm going to push that the lead right up into the bead. Mash that down just a little bit so it doesn't stick out there. And this helps secure the bead. It certainly adds a lot of weight to it. And it also starts to help build what I want later on to be a tapered body. And a lot of people think that's one of the secrets of this fly as well. So I have my 13 wraps of wire on there. And then I'm going to come in and tie in really right behind that. I'm using black thread. You can use black, brown, olive. And I decided today that if I was going to tie this fly using a real light colored wire, if you're not really careful to get the wire wrapped on real tight, What I think works better is to use a color of thread underneath that wire that matches whatever wire you're using so that you don't see the thread through that wire. But I'm not going to do that right now. So I'm just using black. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build up a little ball here. You don't really have to do this, but I think it helps splay those goose biots a little bit better. My goose biots go. And I'm going to tie these in one at a time. I'm going to tie one on the far side first, and I want it to be concave away from me. You want the length of this tail to be just a little bit longer than the gap of the hook. I can pretty much eyeball that. Do a little pinch technique. Bring it back up there where I want it. Happy with that. And I do another one on the other side toward me. So this time I would want the concave part of the biot facing me. Some people tie these on two at a time. Not quite that coordinated. And I want to even those up just a little bit. Good enough. And I'm going to tie the butt ends, just let those go up into the wire close to the bead, because that helps, again, helps in building that tapered body, which is really nice. So you can see that I have the biots on there. Good place for a half hitch. And now I want to tie in my wire. This fly was originally tied with copper wire, but it's branched out into 8 official colors. There's more unofficial colors than that I can tell you, because I've seen it tied in purple. I'm going to tie it in red because I think that would be easy to see. It's also a popular color that's used. And again, this is ultra wire, and it will not turn over time. But before that, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go back and look at my body and see if it's tapered enough. And I can see that I have right here, it's not tapered just as much as I want it to. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to taper that body a little bit more and build up that central area there. That looks better. Okay, I'm happy with that. And I'm going to tie this wire in, this red wire. I'm going to tie it up close because I think that makes it nice and secure. And again, it's extra weight, so you don't have to, this is a nymph, you don't have to worry about it having too much material on the fly. And it also helps in making that tapered body. And I really want it right on top, because I think if you get it on the side, it makes that one side too bulky. Tie it down right back to where your biots are splayed. So I have that tied in. And then I'm going to bring my thread forward because I will need it forward when I actually tie down the wire. This I think is one of the most critical parts of the fly. This is where you can really mess it up. And I'm kind of particular about this part, and I hardly ever get it perfect.
What size wire is it?
This is ultra wire.
What size?
This is medium. This is medium. And so you really just have to take your time. And that first turn is the toughest. And when I'm doing this at home, I will usually wear magnifying glasses, more so than just reading glasses, to get this right. Just take some time. And as a kid, my mom would tell me I had to hold my tongue just right. I haven't forgotten that. I'm putting a fair amount of tension on this because I want those wraps to be nice and tight and very close together, just as close together as I can get them. And I'm coming up a little further than I have to, but I know that it's going to be secure that way. And I'm getting into the thorax a little bit, but I know it's secure. And I know it's not going to be too short. And then I'm just going to tie that off. And then I can probably just break that. I don't know. Cut that close. I like to just try to soften that a bit. That tag end. Cover it. And I'm pretty happy with that. Nice tapered body. Okay. I'm going to come back over just that last wrap or two that I did. And now what I want to do is I want to tie in the material that we will use to make the wing case. And this is a package of holographic tinsel. I'm going to use one strand of this. And I'm going to cut it just a little bit so it's easier to work with. I'm going to lay it right on top. Tie it in right on top. Make sure it's straight. And tie it in good. And I'm just going to bend that back on itself and tie that tag in. It's not going anyplace now. Okay, the next thing we want to add is a piece of thin skin. And I have a piece of dark brown thin skin. The true blue version calls for black. You can use black, you can use green. This is not the only thing that will work for this, but this is really nice, easy material to work with. And I'm not going to need very much. So I'm cutting off a strip that's maybe 1/4 of an inch wide. And it comes secured to this backing. And if you take your bodkin, that's really the easiest way to separate the thin skin from the backing. And as you peel it off, you'll notice that the side that was stuck to the backing is shiny. That's the side you want to be visible to the fish when it's all said and done. So the side that was up is dull, and the underside is shiny. So we want to make sure that when we tie it in, we're going to tie it in, then fold it over and tie it again, and it forms the wing case. So I'm going to put that right on top. And what I do is I try to get it right on top, even right up to the bead, and just tie that off there. And then I will always bring it forward, get an idea for where it is, and that will work. So we have our wing case tied in. Now we are ready for our thorax, and we're going to be using Peacock Hurl for the thorax. And so I have some Peacock Hurl here, and really I think 2 pieces will work for this fly just fine. Cut off those butt ends there. Lay that right on top. That's my brother. I didn't know he was coming.
Just told you came sit wake up.
And I will wrap around nice little peacock thorax there. Then I'll tie that off. Cut off the tag ends. And the only thing I have left, tie in some legs, and then I'm going to bring that thorax, that wing case material over. Now, again, I think lots of different things can be used for the legs. The traditional pattern calls for Partridge or Henback. That's okay. I really like the pheasant tail better, but what we're going to use is a Henback because it's dark. I can get one I like here. This is what we're going to use here. And I'm going to select some and cut those off. I'm going to cut off probably 1/4 of an inch. And we want to tie these in, and this should go back. We're going to tie on one side and then tie on the other, and it should go back to the hook point. I'm going to put that right on the side over here. I have my hook point covered up. I don't know about where it is. Bring that down just a little. Okay, I can live with that. And I need some for the other side. Some people will tie in both of these at the same time using a totally different method, but this is what we're going to use because this is what the guy who first tied this fly did. Those positioned on the other side. I like that. And I'm going to cut the tips, the butt ends off, not the tips, the butt ends. Show it up a little. Couple more wraps. And the last thing we have to do is bring this wing case forward. So some people will bring the thin skin and the flashaboo over and tie them in together. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to bring one over, nice and firm, get those legs out of the way. It's got that good. sure my leg isn't bound down there. Now I bring that holographic tinsel forward right over the top, get it as straight as I can. And that is it. Now, if all this was a little shorter, this material here, I could go ahead and whip finish it, and I probably could do that anyway. But I'm gonna take one more wrap and just cut this off here. And whip finish this. And I will usually put in 2 whip finishes, although since this is going to be epoxy, it's not really all that important. The only thing that we haven't done that's done on the real fly is mix up some 5 or 30-minute epoxy and just take a little drop and put just right on the top of the wing case. Let it dry and you're ready to fish it. That is the Copper John.